Commander Alex Martinez stood at the edge of the quantum fracture, his ship's special shields barely holding against the reality-warping energies. Through the view screen, he watched space itself tear and reform in impossible patterns, beautiful but deadly. Behind his ship, a fleet of vessels from 30 different alien species maintained a safe distance. They were there to assist, but none would venture as close as the human ships. "Final systems check," Alex ordered. "Is everyone ready?" His crew confirmed their stations were prepared. They had trained for 2 days straight on Dr. Susan Lee's plan to seal the quantum fracture. The odds of success were slim, but billions of lives were at stake. "The quantum stabilizers are charged at maximum," reported Officer Frank Davis. "But the simulations still show only a 42% chance of successful containment." Alex nodded. "Better odds than we usually get. Begin the approach sequence." The ship eased forward, deeper into the distorted space around the fracture. 3 other human vessels followed in tight formation. Each carried part of the experimental device designed by Dr. Lee's team. On the Galactic Council's command station, Admiral Darius White stood with High Counselor Zolthax and dozens of other representatives, watching the mission unfold on massive screens. The Admiral had given up trying to explain that humans didn't have mystical powers. Results mattered more than misunderstandings right now. "Your people approached the very heart of the fracture," said Zolthax, his crystalline form trembling slightly. "No other species would attempt this. Humans have a talent for solving problems others think impossible," Darius replied simply. Dr. Susan Lee joined them, her eyes fixed on the readings from the human ships. "The fracture is growing faster than predicted. Commander Martinez needs to deploy the stabilizers within the next 10 minutes, or the damage will be irreversible." On the lead ship, warning alarms blared as reality fluctuations intensified. "Hull integrity at 60% and falling," called out Officer Jenny Wells. "The quantum fluctuations are affecting our molecular bonds." Parts of the ship were literally fading in and out of existence. Several crew members reported feeling their bodies become partially transparent before solidifying again. Alex remained focused. "We're almost in position. Prepare to deploy on my mark." The ship shuddered violently as they reached the deployment point. Officer Davis looked up from his station, his face pale. "Commander, the deployment system is failing. Someone will need to manually release the stabilizer from the cargo bay." Alex didn't hesitate. "I'll take care of it. Keep us in position." He raced through the corridors of the destabilizing ship. In the cargo bay, he found the massive quantum stabilizer device partially phased through the floor. Working quickly, he reset the release mechanisms and began the activation sequence. Throughout the galaxy, news of the mission spread rapidly. On countless worlds, beings gathered around communication devices, waiting for news. The phrase "the humans said they'll take care of it" was repeated in millions of languages. To many aliens, it had become a phrase of both terror and hope. Back on the council station, the observation room fell silent as the feeds from Alex's ship became distorted. For several tense minutes, nothing but static filled the screens. Then, slowly, the readings began to stabilize. The quantum fracture was shrinking. The plan was working. When clear communications were restored, the battered human ships were seen limping away from the sealed fracture. Commander Martinez, looking exhausted but satisfied, reported success. That evening, as celebrations spread across the galaxy, a new protocol was formally added to the Galactic Council's emergency procedures. When faced with the impossible, ask a human. 2 weeks later, at the Earth Space Academy, a class of new recruits toured a starship for the first time. The alien instructor, a veteran named Vrextil who had once worked with engineer John Miller, was explaining the complex engine systems. When a particularly difficult concept confused the students, a young recruit named Sam Carter raised her hand. "Don't worry about explaining all the details, sir. I'll take care of figuring it out." The alien instructor froze in place, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. The human students looked confused, but the other alien staff members immediately stepped back, giving Sam respectful nods. Across the galaxy, a simple human phrase had become both a terrifying legend and a promise of the impossible made possible. Humans remained largely oblivious to their reputation, continuing to solve problems as they always had, one impossible task at a time. Admiral Darius White frowned at his computer screen. For months, he had been studying the strange reactions aliens had to certain human phrases. Something didn't add up. After the stellar crisis was resolved, his clearance level had been raised, giving him access to the original translation databases from First Contact 7 years ago. He scrolled through thousands of entries until he found what he was looking for. There it was, a simple translation error made during the very first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council. Darius leaned back in his chair, laughing softly to himself. So that's why they look terrified every time we offer to help. An hour later, he stood before the Galactic Council Translation Committee, a group of language experts from various species who maintained the official translation databases used across the galaxy. Esteemed committee members, he began, I believe I found a critical error in our translation matrix. The committee chair, a tall blue-skinned Viridian named Zolmor, looked skeptical. Our translation systems are constantly updated and refined. Admiral, what error could have persisted for years? Darius displayed the entry on the large screen. When Commander Lisa Howard first met with Ambassador Sktal 7 years ago, she used the phrase, I'll take care of it, regarding a technical problem. The translator recorded this as, I commit to resolve this problem beyond all personal cost, accepting death as a possible outcome. The committee members murmured among themselves. A small bird-like alien named Piptweak fluttered her wings nervously. But that is what the phrase means, she chirped. All our observations confirm this. Humans say these words before performing impossible tasks. Darius shook his head. No, in human English, take care of simply means to handle or manage something. It carries no special meaning about self-sacrifice or death. The committee looked unconvinced. Zolmor pulled up records on his screen. Then why, he asked, does this phrase consistently precede human actions that other species would consider extremely dangerous or impossible? We have recorded over 300 instances in the past 7 years. Confirmation bias, Darius explained. You only notice when we say it before doing something difficult. We use the same phrase for simple tasks too. I might say I'll take care of watering my plants or sending a message. The committee appeared shocked. Piptweak nearly fell off her perch. Are you claiming, Zolmor said slowly, that when Lieutenant Lopes said she would take care of the stellar crisis, she was using the same casual phrase one might use for plant maintenance? Exactly, Darius replied. The committee erupted in disbelief. Some members argued loudly that the Admiral must be mistaken. Others suggested he was trying to hide the true power of human determination. As the debate raged, the doors to the committee room slid open. A breathless aide rushed in and handed Zolmor an urgent message. The room fell silent as the committee chair read it. A new crisis has emerged, Zolmor announced grimly. A quantum fracture has appeared in the Aryan Nebula. Space-time itself is breaking down. The committee forgot their debate about translations as fear spread through the room. Quantum fractures were theoretical disasters that no one knew how to address. The council has called an emergency session, Zolmor continued. All available scientists and experts are requested immediately. Darius received his own alert message moments later. When he reached the council chamber, he found a scene of barely controlled panic. Representatives from hundreds of worlds were watching terrifying images of space literally tearing apart near a densely populated region. High Counselor Zolthax addressed the assembly. Our best minds have no solution. The fracture grows by the hour. Even evacuation may be impossible as normal space travel becomes unstable near the rift. To Darius's surprise, the ancient counselor turned directly to the human section. After your success with the stellar crisis, we must ask, can humans help us again? Can you take care of this situation? Despite knowing the truth about the translation error, Darius felt the weight of billions of lives depending on the answer. Before he could respond, the council chamber doors opened and a team of human scientists entered, led by a determined-looking woman. "Admiral," said the council aide, "Dr. Susan Lee has arrived from Earth Science Division with her quantum research team." The aide lowered his voice to add, "She says she has an idea about the fracture." Captain Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Defiant, watching the swirling chaos of the destabilizing star through the reinforced view screen. The massive red giant pulsed with dangerous energy, its surface roiling with solar flares larger than planets. They had just 12 days left to stop the chain reaction that threatened billions of lives. "Shield status?" Ryan asked, his voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. "Holding at 68%, Captain," replied Officer Samantha Ortiz from the tactical station. "The radiation is intense, but we're managing." The Defiant led a hastily assembled fleet of 20 human ships, each carrying specialized equipment designed to vent the dangerous pressure building in the unstable stars. Lieutenant Maria Lopes had convinced the Galactic Council to give them a chance, and now they had to deliver. "Deploy the first stabilizer probe," Ryan ordered. The ship shuddered as it launched the first of the devices. On screen, they watched the small probe speed toward the angry star. It would bore deep into the stellar surface and create a controlled channel for the excess energy to dissipate harmlessly into subspace. At a safe distance, 3 Council science vessels observed the human operation. Their crews had been shocked when the humans approached the unstable star instead of setting up remote equipment. No other species would risk direct proximity to a star on the verge of going supernova. On the lead alien vessel, the journalist Texalura recorded everything she saw. As the chief correspondent for the Galactic News Network, she had volunteered to document what most aliens believed would be a heroic but doomed human mission. The humans continue their approach to the star, she narrated for her audience of trillions across the galaxy. Their ships are remarkably close to the stellar surface, at distances no Council species would consider survivable. Yet they appear unconcerned. The Defiant's crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this mission around the clock since leaving Earth space. Each person knew their role perfectly. "First probe has reached target depth," announced Science Officer Eric Mason, beginning energy transfer sequence. Everyone held their breath as the probe activated. If their calculations were wrong, the probe could trigger the very explosion they were trying to prevent. On the view screen, a narrow beam of brilliant blue energy shot from the star's surface out into space, releasing some of the dangerous pressure building in its core. The ship's sensors showed the star's instability decreasing by 3%. "It's working," Eric said. "The stellar core is stabilizing." The bridge crew exchanged smiles, but Ryan remained focused. "One down, 19 more probes to go for this star alone, and we have 6 stars to treat. Let's keep moving." Over the next 5 days, the human fleet worked around the clock. They lost 2 ships to unexpected solar flares, but the crews were rescued. Each successful probe deployment brought the crisis closer to resolution. On the alien observation ships, the observers could hardly believe what they were seeing. The humans were actually stopping a stellar chain reaction with technology that seemed impossibly simple compared to the massive structures the Council had proposed. "How did your species develop such techniques?" Texalera asked during a rare communication with the Defiant. Ryan shrugged. "We've always had to solve problems with limited resources. Makes you get creative." Texalera's translator struggled with the concept. "But the risk to yourselves. Sometimes you have to take risks to save lives," Ryan replied simply. By the 10th day, all the targeted stars had been stabilized. The chain reaction had been stopped. The 17 inhabited worlds and their 30 billion inhabitants were safe. When the fleet returned to Galactic Council space, they were met with a strange mixture of celebration and fearful respect. The aliens kept a noticeable distance as they presented honors to the human crews. That evening at the official reception, Texlara approached Ryan with a question that had been bothering her. Captain Clark, when Lieutenant Lopes said humans would take care of this crisis, did you know you would succeed? Ryan took a sip of his drink and smiled. Honestly, we were figuring it out as we went, but that's what humans do. We see a problem. We solve it. Texalera's recording device captured his words, adding yet another chapter to the galaxy's growing collection of human legends. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council filled the massive chamber with representatives from over 200 species. The mood was grim. Holographic displays showed the Cygnus X1 star cluster, where a chain reaction of stellar explosions had begun 3 days ago. Already 5 stars had gone supernova, and the shock waves were triggering instabilities in neighboring systems. In the path of destruction lay 17 inhabited worlds with a combined population of nearly 30 billion sentient beings. High Counselor Zolthax, an ancient being from one of the oldest spacefaring races, called the meeting to order. His crystalline body glimmered under the chamber lights. "The situation is dire," he announced. "Our scientists project that within 30 days, the chain reaction will reach the Pellerin system, home to 6 billion Jexidi. Evacuation efforts have already begun, but current estimates suggest only 20% of the population can be moved in time." Grim murmurs spread through the chamber. Such a disaster had not been seen in living memory. "We have assembled our finest scientific minds," continued Zolthax. "They propose a solution that will require extensive resources and precise coordination." The chief scientist, a hovering cloud-like being named Vishper, activated a detailed hologram showing an immense energy shield that would need to be constructed. "We will need to build 7 megastructures at specific points in space," Vishper explained. "Together, they will create a dampening field that should slow the chain reaction. Construction will take approximately 2 years. 2 years, shouted several representatives at once. "The affected systems will be destroyed in 1 month." "That is our best option," Vishper replied sadly. "The forces involved are beyond our current technology to stop completely." Lieutenant Maria Lopes sat quietly in the human section, reviewing the data on her tablet. As Earth's junior representative to the Council's crisis response team, she had been studying the problem since the first star exploded. The senior human diplomat was away on another mission, leaving her as humanity's voice in this crisis. Maria raised her hand, and eventually the High Counselor acknowledged her. "With respect to the esteemed scientist and this council," she said, standing up, "I believe there's another approach we could try." All eyes turned to her. The human section of the council was still new, added only 6 years ago. Many older species still viewed humans as primitive newcomers. Maria displayed her own hologram, showing a series of small ships positioned at key points near the unstable stars. "Instead of trying to contain the explosions after they happen, we could prevent them by releasing the pressure building up in each star's core. My team has developed specialized devices that can safely vent the excess energy into subspace." Vishper's cloudy form darkened with doubt. "That approach was considered and rejected. The precision required is beyond our capabilities, and the danger to any ships in the area would be extreme." Maria nodded. "It's risky, yes, but our calculations show it has an 86% chance of success if implemented properly, and it can be done quickly." High Counselor Zolthax peered at her with ancient eyes. "How quickly?" "We can have the equipment ready and ships in position in 2 weeks," Maria said confidently. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Several scientific advisors began arguing at once about the impossibility of the timeline. Zolthax raised a crystalline arm for silence. 2 weeks to save billions of lives, when our own plan would take years? He sounded skeptical. "How can you be so confident, Lieutenant Lopes?" Maria straightened her shoulders. "Because we've faced similar challenges before, though on a smaller scale. This is just a matter of applying proven techniques with greater resources. We can take care of this. Give us 2 weeks." The familiar phrase sent an immediate hush through the chamber. Delegates turned to their translators, confirming what they had heard. Some began whispering urgently to their staff. A few representatives from more cautious species quietly left their seats and moved toward the exits. In the record-keeper's booth, a special alert was automatically triggered. The official log now showed Human Death Vow Level 5, Stellar Crisis, Lieutenant M. Lopez. Maria noticed the strange reactions, but had no time to wonder about them. The fate of billions was at stake, and her team had work to do. Ambassador Peter Robinson adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform as he entered the Grand Meeting Hall on Neutral Station 7. The space station served as the main location for difficult negotiations between species that couldn't agree on whose planet to meet on. Today's meeting was especially tense. Two powerful alien civilizations, the Vorax and the Centauri, had been fighting over territory for more than 50 years. Their war had claimed millions of lives and destabilized an entire sector of the galaxy. After decades of failed peace attempts, both sides had finally agreed to let humans mediate the talks. Peter took his seat at the head of the long table. To his left sat the Vorax delegation, massive reptilian beings with thick armor-like skin and small, fierce eyes. To his right were the Centauri, slender creatures with 4 arms and shimmering scales that changed color with their emotions, currently a hostile deep red. "Welcome," Peter said, his words translated instantly by the devices on the table. "I am honored to help guide these historic negotiations." The lead Vorax representative, General Kraz, slammed a clawed fist on the table. "The Centauri invaded 3 of our colony worlds. We demand their immediate surrender of those planets." Ambassador Trill of the Centauri hissed angrily, her scales flashing bright orange. "Those worlds were ours by ancient right. Your people stole them centuries ago." The argument escalated quickly. Both sides shouted accusations about past betrayals, broken treaties, and disputed territories. Peter listened patiently, taking notes and waiting for the initial anger to subside. In the observation room behind a one-way window, alien diplomat Grellax watched with fellow observers from various Galactic Council species. Grellax had been studying human diplomatic methods for years, fascinated by their unexpected successes. "The human appears calm despite the chaos," noted another observer. "Humans have strange methods," Grellax replied. "Watch carefully." Back in the negotiation room, Peter finally raised a hand. Both sides fell quiet, more out of curiosity than respect. "I have listened to your positions," Peter said. "The issues between your people are complex and deep-rooted, but I believe a solution is possible that will benefit both sides." He presented a detailed plan that involved shared administration of the disputed planets, trade agreements beneficial to both sides, and a gradual military withdrawal. The aliens listened with skepticism. General Kraz growled low. "This plan requires us to trust the Centauri." "Impossible." Ambassador Trill's scales turned a dismissive blue. "And we would need to allow Vorax ships in our space." "Unthinkable." The negotiations broke down again into shouting. Hours passed with no progress. Both sides threatened to leave. Peter's human assistants looked worried as the day stretched into evening with no breakthrough. Finally, Peter stood up, his patience wearing thin but his voice still calm. "Perhaps we need a new approach," he said. "The current framework isn't working. Let me revise the proposal overnight. Don't worry about these difficulties. I'll take care of the situation." The room suddenly went completely silent. The Vorax and Centauri representatives stared at Peter with expressions of shock. General Kraz's aide whispered urgently in his ear. One of the Centauri diplomats checked a small device, then showed it to Ambassador Trill, whose scales immediately shifted to a pale, frightened white. In the observation room, all the alien observers stood up in alarm. "Did the human just?" one began. "Yes," Grellax confirmed. "The human has made the pledge." General Kraz cleared his throat nervously. "Perhaps we have been too hasty in dismissing the human's proposal." Ambassador Trill nodded quickly. "Yes, We should reconsider the shared administration concept. Peter looked confused at the sudden change but seized the opportunity. Within an hour, both sides had agreed to most of the terms they had been fighting about all day. By the end of the evening, they were signing preliminary agreements. Later, as Peter celebrated with his team, one of his assistants showed him a message that had flashed across galactic news networks. Human diplomat invokes the phrase during Vorax-Centauri negotiations. Peace treaty signed within 1 hour. Peter scratched his head. All I said was I would take care of it. His assistant laughed. That's exactly the point. Somehow that's become the most terrifying thing a human can say in this galaxy. 5 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Humans were still a curiosity among the stars, but they had proven themselves useful enough to be tolerated. On Station Harmony, a joint human-alien outpost near the Orion Nebula, Engineer John Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the pulsing reactor core. The station's power system was a mix of human and alien technology that never quite worked right. Today it was worse than usual. The reactor temperature had risen 15% above normal levels, and the alien engineer assigned to help him had been frantically checking readings for the past hour. The fluctuations are growing stronger, Human Miller, said Vrextil, the slender, green-skinned alien whose species came from a world with 3 suns. His 6-fingered hands moved quickly over the control panel. If the pattern continues, we have perhaps 1 hour before critical failure. John nodded, watching the energy flow diagrams. I see the problem. The regulator isn't compensating for the power spikes from the new science lab. Vrextil's oval eyes widened. We must alert Station Command. Emergency protocols require evacuation procedures to begin immediately. That seems excessive, John said. He opened his toolkit and pulled out a specialized device he had built himself. The backup systems can handle the load if we reroute through the secondary grid. I'll take care of it. Vrextil froze. His skin changed from green to a pale yellow. You will take care of it, he whispered. John didn't notice the alien's reaction as he was already removing an access panel. Yeah, should take about 30 minutes. No big deal. When John looked up again, Vrextil was gone. Strange, but not unusual for aliens to have odd behaviors. John shrugged and got to work. 15 minutes later, alarms began to sound throughout the station. The automated system announced, all personnel, proceed to emergency shuttles. Reactor instability detected. This is not a drill. John frowned. He was halfway through his repairs, and the reactor was stabilizing, not getting worse. He tapped his communication badge. Miller to control. What's going on? The reactor is fine. I'm almost finished with the repairs. There was a pause before Station Director Carrie Young responded. John, you're still in engineering. The aliens are saying you made some kind of death pledge. They've initiated emergency evacuation protocols station-wide. What? No, I just told Vrextil I'd fixed the reactor. It's almost stable now. Another voice broke into the channel. It was Ambassador Sktal, who had been transferred to Station Harmony last month. Human Miller used the phrase, Director Young. All non-human species recognize the meaning. We are following standard protocols. John sighed and continued working as the alarms blared. By the time he finished the repair and shut down the alarms, the station was eerily quiet. Most of the alien population had boarded emergency shuttles and retreated to a safe distance. When Director Young arrived at engineering with a security team and several nervous alien officials, they found John drinking coffee and filling out his maintenance report. See, all fixed, he said, pointing to the normal readings on the display. The aliens stared at him in silence. One of them, a small purple being with 4 arms, took readings with a handheld scanner, its appendages trembling slightly. Impossible, it whispered. The containment field has been completely reconfigured. The reactive matrix is stable. Director Young looked confused. So there was a real problem. Yes, said Sktal. one that would have required a full engineering team from the council and at least 3 days of work. The ambassador turned to John. Yet you completed it alone in less than 1 hour. John shrugged. It wasn't that complicated. That evening, Vreck still approached John in the dining hall. The alien sat carefully across from him, still keeping extra distance. I wish to learn, Vreck still said quietly. When humans say they will take care of something dangerous, how do you know you will succeed? John thought for a moment as he chewed his food. We don't always know. We just try our best. Word of John's casual solution to a potentially catastrophic reactor failure traveled through subspace communications to every corner of the galaxy, adding another chapter to the growing legend of humans and their terrifying confidence. Commander Lisa Howard stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Intrepid, looking at the massive alien vessel through the main viewport. First contact with the Galactic Council had finally happened after decades of humanity reaching for the stars. She straightened her uniform and tried to hide her excitement. They're hailing us again, Commander, said Communications Officer Ben Fisher. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Put them through, Lisa said. The screen filled with the image of a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. 2 smaller eyes blinked nervously at the bottom of its face. Greetings again, Commander Howard of Earth. I am Ambassador Skatal of the Galactic Council, the alien said. Its voice translator gave it a soft, musical quality. We are prepared to begin formal diplomatic exchange. Excellent. Our team is ready to board as discussed. Lisa replied with a smile. The meeting chamber on the alien ship was huge, with seats for dozens of different species. Lisa led her team of 5 humans into the room, trying not to stare at the variety of alien forms. Some floated in bubbles of liquid, others shuffled on multiple legs, and a few seemed to be made of shifting crystal formations. Ambassador Skatal guided them to a round table near the center. Please be comfortable. We have studied human biology and created suitable accommodations. Lisa and her team sat down. The chairs were almost right, just a little too high and with a strange tilt. Thank you for the welcome, Ambassador. Lisa began, but a sharp alarm cut her off. Red lights flashed around the room. Several aliens stood up in alarm, their translator devices all speaking at once. What's happening? Asked Science Officer Greg Powell, his hand moving to the scanner at his belt. Skatal's 4 eyes widened. A containment field in the lower section is failing. The antimatter regulation system is showing instability. The room erupted in panicked alien voices. A small green alien with tentacles for arms waved a device, showing complex readings. The field will collapse in 15 minutes. We must evacuate this sector immediately, it shrieked. Lisa checked her own scanner. The situation looked serious, but not unsolvable. She had dealt with similar issues during her time on Jupiter Station. Ambassador, may I see the control systems? She asked calmly. Skatal stared at her. You wish to approach an antimatter containment failure. It is not safe. Lisa shrugged. I have experience with similar systems. I'll take care of it. The room went silent. Every alien turned to look at her. Skatal's skin changed from blue to a pale white. You will take care of it, the ambassador repeated slowly. Yes, Lisa said. It's not that complex. I just need access to your engineering systems. The aliens began backing away. One small creature actually hid under its chair. Skatal made a series of clicking sounds that the translator didn't catch. Commander, whispered Greg, I think we've said something wrong. Skatal composed himself and spoke in a formal tone. The human commander has made the death pledge. Record this moment. The what? Lisa asked. You have committed to resolve the crisis through personal sacrifice, Skatal said solemnly. We will honor your species' brave ritual. Lisa laughed. No, I just meant I can fix the problem. I've worked with antimatter containment fields before. The aliens looked confused. A tall, thin alien with a ridge of purple spines stepped forward. "You do not intend to perform the final resolution?" it asked. "I intend to adjust the field parameters and stabilize the system," Lisa explained. "May I?" After an awkward moment, Skital nodded and led Lisa to an engineering terminal. 10 minutes later, the alarm stopped. The containment field stabilized with a few adjustments to the power flow. When Lisa returned to the chamber, the aliens stared at her with new expressions that her team's cultural specialist, Amy Dixon, couldn't quite identify. "The problem is solved," Lisa announced. "Shall we continue our meeting?" That evening, as the human team returned to their ship, they didn't know that across the Galactic Council's vast database, a new entry was being created. When humans say, "I'll take care of it," prepare for inexplicable outcomes. Approach with extreme caution. Scientist Catherine Bell stood at the observation window, watching the swirling colors of the temporal anomaly. The beautiful purple and blue waves looked peaceful from a distance, but they were causing havoc on the planet Nixforna below. Time moved differently in different parts of the planet now. In some villages, people aged a week while their neighbors aged only minutes. The Galactic Council science vessel, Eternal Discovery, had been studying the anomaly for 3 months. Catherine had joined the mission 2 weeks ago as Earth's representative. She was still getting used to working with aliens who treated her like she might explode at any moment. "The temporal distortion is increasing by 8% every day," said the chief alien scientist, Miss Core. The tall, thin alien had skin that changed colors with its emotions. Right now, it was a worried shade of orange. "At this rate, half the planet will be trapped in slow time within 2 weeks. Admiral Darius White, the human military liaison to the Council, frowned at the reports. "What solutions have you tried?" Ms. Core pointed to a holographic display showing various failed attempts. "We have used standard temporal stabilizers, tried to create a counter-anomaly, and even attempted to evacuate the affected areas. But those in the slow time zones cannot be reached efficiently." Catherine studied the data and noticed something interesting. "The anomaly has a pattern. Look at these energy readings. They spike every 42 minutes exactly." The science team gathered around her displays. Miss Core's skin turned a surprised yellow. "You are correct, Human Bell. How did we miss this?" Catherine smiled. "Sometimes a fresh pair of eyes helps. If we can predict the spikes, we can use them to our advantage." She quickly sketched out a plan to use the energy spikes to power a special field that would normalize time across the planet. It would require precise timing and several risky maneuvers near the anomaly's edge. Miss Core's skin paled to almost white. "This plan requires someone to pilot a ship directly into the anomaly's outer layer during a spike. The risk is extreme." Catherine nodded. "Yes, but it's the fastest way to save everyone. I'll take care of it." The room went silent. Every alien turned to stare at her. Admiral White, who had been around aliens long enough to understand what was happening, covered his smile with his hand. "Human Bell has made the pledge," whispered an alien technician. "Record this for the archives." Catherine looked confused. "It's just a pilot mission. I've done similar runs before." Admiral White pulled her aside while the aliens huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. "Catherine, you should know that when humans say, 'I'll take care of it,' the aliens think we're making some kind of sacred vow to solve problems at any cost," he explained quietly. "It's become a whole thing. There's even a special alert system for it now." "That's ridiculous," Catherine said. "It's just a phrase." The Admiral shrugged. "Maybe, but it's worked in our favor so far. They respect us for it." 3 days later, Catherine piloted a small ship toward the anomaly. Her plan was to release specially designed probes at precise moments during the energy spike. The aliens watched from a safe distance, certain they were witnessing another legendary human mission. When the energy spike hit, Catherine's ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across her control panel, but she stayed focused, releasing each probe at exactly the right moment. As the last probe deployed, a wave of energy washed over her ship, knocking out several systems. But on the planet below, The time distortions began to stabilize. Villages trapped in slow time suddenly synchronized with the rest of the world. The plan was working. When Catherine returned to the science vessel, the aliens treated her with a mixture of awe and fear. Miss Core approached her cautiously. Once again, a human has done the impossible after speaking the phrase, the scientist said. Our people will tell stories about this day. Catherine just smiled, not quite understanding why fixing a problem had become the stuff of legend. But across the galaxy, another chapter was added to the growing myth of humans and their terrifying phrase, I'll take care of it.